Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Saline Area Schools Board of Education meeting for December 10th, 2019. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Steph is out of town on work at a fun conference, I think, out on the West Coast, so she will not be joining us tonight. Student showcase tonight is the Builders Club from the middle school. Woo-hoo. Mr. Bizu.
Thank you, Mr. Hynek. Thank you, Board of Education. Thanks for taking a few minutes tonight to hear an opportunity from one of our groups. A new group at our school the last couple of years is the Builders Club. It is a program from Kiwanis and Kiwanis International. It feeds nicely to our high school Key Club, so we're developing leaders at the middle school, and then they will continue on certainly in a lot of different areas, but certainly can connect to the Key Club. We've got a lot of members so far. It's really been great. They've done a lot of service projects, Saline Area Senior Center, and we'll hear a little bit more about that, but it's our students that do this, but it's certainly with the guidance and care of Laura Odom and Kirsten Zemaitis. They guide our group. So the Saline Middle School Builders Club.
All right, well, thank you, all of you, for allowing us to be part of your meeting today. Our major part that we wanted to introduce was just, we love being a part of the Kiwanis International and also being a part of the Saline High School Key Club, which is really the group that recruited us to be a part of this group. Our mission is to allow opportunities for students to have service opportunities, to develop leadership, character, and just show their kindness in their community. So we're going to let our kids speak for themselves.
Good evening. My name is Mia Block, and I am a student at Saline Middle School. I am a part of our Builders Club. It's one of the largest growing clubs at our school. It's made up of 6th to 8th graders. And we've had a lot of service events throughout the years. Last year, we cleaned up the senior center patio so that the senior center could go out and enjoy their beautiful patio. We also made dog toys and cat beds for the Humane Society. We also made winter care kits, for people who were down on their luck. And we donated a basket to the Saline Craft Show. This year, so far, we have done trick-or-treating for UNICEF to get money, and we've done a canned food drive, and we've made posters for awareness about Veterans Day. Service clubs are an important part to our community because they get to go out and do things that help our community that makes everyone in the club feel special and happy. So, yeah.
This is Brady Sattler, also one of our members. And by the way, both of these guys are second-year members.
I love this club because I get to meet with my friends and help our community at the same time. It's really a joy to walk in every other Thursday, see my friends, and know that we have the opportunity to make someone else's day better. It makes someone else's day better as well as ours. Thank you for listening and have a great evening.
Real quick, can we also have a round of applause? All of our other students,
Yeah, can we have
Builders
our
Club
Builders
guys
Club
stand
members
up?
stand
A
up?
round of applause.
And then before we want to close.
Yeah, just to close out, we just want to say thank you to our community. We've had such a great sense of support throughout our first year last year with our club, and now this our second year. We've already doubled our membership since our first year. We see the same consistent group of kids every other week that they come. We're now, I think, consistently seeing anywhere from 60 to 80 kids on a every other week basis. Which is amazing, because that means that all those students are making a difference in their community, and they care. They don't have to be there, but they're making that choice. And so we fully appreciate all of the work that they're willing to do, and we appreciate the community support as well. So,
And thank you guys for coming. Any questions or? Okay.
Thank you. Public comment. A member of the public may address the board briefly for up to 3 minutes by filling out the How to Address the Board of Education form that is provided prior to each meeting. Please note, the Board of Education members will not respond directly to public comment. Public comment will be limited to 30 minutes. Those needing additional time should request to be scheduled on the agenda of a future meeting via the superintendent. Individuals addressing the board should take into consideration the rules of common courtesy. The public participation portion of the meeting cannot be used to make personal attacks against a board member, district employee, community member, or a student. We have 4 this evening. Raylyn Davis.
Hello, I just had some comments about actually what's on the agenda today. I know later on you're going to be discussing some policy. First of all, I don't have my notes. The public comment policy, actually, I'm kind of surprised this is the 3rd time this year that you are redoing it, and I understand that this year has definitely been a little bit more adventurous in public comment that maybe has had in the past years. But my biggest concern with that is, again, if you're going to move the public comment only to the end of the meeting, but still require us to submit before the meeting starts, that's not fair for parents who are either running 5 minutes late, who may have other school activities that they're trying to get to. And I think that having the form in before comment starts, especially if you're moving all non-agenda comments, should be sufficient time, and to still keep kind of the bantering down. It just feels like you're making it harder and harder and harder for the public to comment when we are the ones that you guys are responsible for. So I'd just like to think about that as you discuss this, to make sure it is fair for both respecting your time and the people on the agenda, but making sure it's still open for the community to come and comment. And I was hoping, as you discuss, I'm just wondering what prompted the change of terms and why that got brought up suddenly. So thank you.
Adam Davis.
Dear Saline School Board, as members of the Saline community, we are very concerned that the administration is having female students undress for gym class in the presence of biological male classmates without their knowledge or consent. Young women have a natural right to privacy, and our schools have always protected students from being seen in a vulnerable state by anyone of the opposite sex. This new policy sets a dangerous precedent for student privacy. Students may no longer assume that they have bodily privacy when changing for athletic events, showering after gym class, or participating in overnight field trips. Our hearts go out to children struggling with their gender. However, all students deserve to feel safe and to know the full truth of who is sharing these intimate spaces. It is also important to remember that Saline is home to many people of faith who believe that children are created as male and female. It is a form of religious discrimination for the administration to impose the ideology of transgender values on families and school staff who believe differently. Being inclusive of all children means finding ways to accommodate different viewpoints within our school community. We ask that the district find a way forward, which is respectful of all students' needs, including transgender students. The current path violates student privacy, infringes on religious values, and compromises student safety. At a bare minimum, we ask that the board require the administration to seek informed consent in writing from students and parents
before placing any child into a locker room that has students of the opposite sex. The board is chosen by the people of Saline and entrusted with the great responsibility of protecting all our students. Now more than ever, our schools need your guidance in addressing this momentous issue of student privacy. This is a petition that was circulated within our school district. It received 600 signatures in the last 2 weeks, and I will read a few of the comments that people within Saline have provided. Unfortunately, I didn't get to review all of them. Everyone is entitled to privacy. Once again, parents are informed last. Sounds familiar. I am Jazz. Have the law denied parental rights? Saline Schools used to be a place that you were proud of to have your children be a part of. Not anymore when things like this happen. It's a shame the whole community to subject children to this. There are other ways to be sensitive to children struggling with gender issues. I firmly believe that parents have a right to be informed on decisions made by administrators, especially those that may affect the privacy or safety of students. There is no consideration for children who have been victims of sexual abuse or assault in this current policy. I'm a Saline female student, and if I was in that situation, I would have felt very uncomfortable and unsafe. And the fact that parents weren't notified beforehand is not professional or appropriate. You can't force this on other people because that is violating their rights as well. I appreciate your time and consideration.
Roy Grove.
I'm the father of a girl in the middle school here in Saline. When I first heard that Saline Middle School allowed a boy into the girls' locker room, it was so sensational, so far beyond the pale, so insensitive, and such a violation of our girls' dignity and right to privacy, I didn't believe it. I summarily discounted the claim until I verified it myself. Upon verifying that claim, I was angry, and my anger only deepened when I further learned that Saline schools implemented this policy in secret. In fact, this was so egregious that I was convinced it was criminal and began searching Michigan statutes to determine what crime the staff of Saline schools had committed. To my utter shock and dismay, in my cursory search, I could not find any law which makes it a crime for the schools to send a boy into the girls' locker room. I will be contacting my state senator and representative and demanding that they pass a new law which makes it a crime to do just that. Let me make something perfectly clear. My position and statements do not, I repeat, do not condemn students who suffer from gender dysphoria. I do not condone bullying said students. I feel empathy for their parents who struggle to understand, raise, nurture, and love their children. And I desire to support those students and parents as long as it is reasonable. Therein lies the rub. What is reasonable and where do we draw the line? Well, facts matter. A child who was born female will always be female, no matter how intense her feelings may be that she is a boy, no matter if she dresses like a boy and even takes hormones to appear more boyish. And the same applies to children who are born as males, of course. Let's be honest, all of us want to take the easy way. That includes school staff and the parents of children with gender dysphoria. And the easy way is giving into their dysphoria and playing along rather than meeting it head-on with support and treatment. We would never give in and play along with a girl who had anorexia. Why would we play along with gender dysphoria? And why do we let our children make the final call in such a monumentally important matter? We would never dream of letting our children define a course of treatment or refuse treatment for cancer. Why do we let our children redefine their sex, an impossibility? Most relevant, however, we must not let parents and staff's desire for the easy way to condemn our girls to such an indignity and violation of their privacy. Furthermore, this policy opens Pandora's box and paves the way for men who claim to be women to demand equal rights and equal treatment and will push us to let men into the girls' locker room. Why not if we let boys in the girls' locker room? Why does age matter? I don't even have time to get into the incredible potential for abuse and sexual assault. Some stats, something like over 17,000 sexual assaults in schools from, I think it was 2011 to 2014, a 4-year period. Something like 1 in 4 girls will be victims of sexual assault by the age of 18. Making them be in close proximity to boys in such a vulnerable environment is something I can't begin to wrap my head around. I want the board to understand the magnitude of how appalling that decision of policy is. The staff members who knew about this and approved it should be summarily fired immediately for breach of our trust and failure to protect the privacy, dignity, and security of our students. I've tried and tried to find a way to excuse this, and I just can't find it. Thank you.
Zoe?
Hi board, I'm Zoe Hadrat-Walla and I'm a student at Saline High School, sorry, talking about the middle school up here. I'm a senior and I am here to speak about the dress code at Saline High School. So first of all, the dress code very unfairly discriminates against girls, and not only that, discriminates against their bodies, which are obviously maturing as they grow older. And due to this, people have been dress coded for things that they can't control, such as their cleavage and like their buttocks showing because of hot weather, or wearing a low-cut top that's apparently not appropriate because their bodies are showing. Anyway, so the dress code explicitly states that people cannot wear tube tops, short shorts, shorts that come past the fingertips, tank tops with spaghetti straps, stuff like that. And obviously those are very discriminatory towards women, because obviously women are the only people who wear these types of things. I mean, like, if you ever seen a man in a tank top, I would like to meet him because that sounds really fun. So what I'm here to propose is changing the dress code to make it less of a discriminatory basis on the women's body and more of an overall statement of saying something like, oh, maybe we should just have clothes, wear clothes on your body, and maybe don't have like your genitals showing, maybe. So I think that would just in general really help with the discriminatory policy that has been in place for Saline for a really long time now. And it's showing students that not only can't they wear things that like make them comfortable, like in the summer you would want to wear shorts and a short t-shirt, but it's also showing them that showing their bodies is not okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen Zong?
Hello. Hi board. I am Eileen Zong and I am a senior at Saline High School. I would also like to discuss tonight some points of the Saline area dress code. Much of the language employed in the written dress code is incredibly gendered, as my friend Zoe mentioned before, such as the prohibition of low-cut blouses or tube tops. And many arguments for this code are that these clothing items might distract from other classmates, especially males, from their education. But my question is to you and to the public, whose education is it jeopardizing? Is it the boys who are supposedly distracted from their education, or the girls who are forced to sacrifice their education to go and change, or to be embarrassed by teachers or codes that prohibit them from wearing the clothes that they're comfortable with? Thank you.
Thank you. Administration.
Just a couple of quick updates. I would like to thank the staff that participated. As you know, over the last couple of weeks since our last board meeting, we've been wrapping up conferences and really launching the second trimester portion. It's been a strong start to that second trimester. We have about a week and a half before we break and come back in 2020. It's an active time of year. I would encourage everyone to take the opportunity to go out and view some of our athletic competitions and our music events that are coming up over the next week and a half. So that's all I have.
Board of Education members? Evan?
At the high school community effect the show, and this film is basically an outline of the historical practices of the United States Railroad on to the Native Americans who used to live we used to upload the back and forth of the campus. And so basically it is a timeline talking about how over the years the policies that have been forced onto these people and the effect of how they're dealing with them now in modern time. Additionally, we also have had a presentation by Dr. Lapchick on discrimination and social issues, due to his story and things that he had to deal with, as well as some facts and statistics that he brought up about things that are going on right now, to kind of think about these things that we're moving forward, trying to help everybody. Just last week, the Senior Center invited a bunch of consultants from the Writing Center, including myself, to teach them how to use Google Documents on Google Drive, and I had a fun time presenting that and taking questions. And going into it, the future says that the SASE writers, which is what the Seniors College does, and the Writing Center are going to collaborate and work on material together to kind of boost our writing together. Additionally, on Friday, some Writing Center consultants from Eastern Michigan University came down to the high school to talk about not only what it's like to be a Writing Center consultant at a university, but also to help our Writing Center at the high school improve the things that we do. And finally, I actually had the opportunity to catch up with some students that were talking about the dress code issues, and they have shown me proposals that other schools have actually implemented. They've shown me how they would like that our policy would be more like this, and a multitude of examples that they showed me. And there's a lot more in-depth discussion on what exactly the dress code is and things like that, and the wording of these other proposals. And so currently, there's a group right now working on sort of writing up something that would look a lot more like the other things that they would like to see, and then kind of take our so.
Thanks.
Yeah, we had a Foundation for Saline Area Schools meeting this morning, and Giving Tuesday was awesome. A lot of people gave, especially even at the high school. They got some great support from students. The year-end appeal is out. The wonderful thing is that this morning they shared many of the teaching grants, and of course there's more grants than there is money available, which is a great thing. There's lots of creative teachers, and there's going to be building grants coming and stuff like that. So they're doing a lot to help our teachers and our buildings do things that our budget can't support. So thank you for anybody who contributed to the foundation and will contribute this by the end of the year. It's awesome, and it's much appreciated, I'm sure, by the teachers.
Okay.
So last week we had our Coalition for Equality Community meeting, and Scott was the host at the high school. We did a behind-the-scenes tour of Saline High School. I saw areas of it I never thought I would see. I was telling Becky Bendis that I saw the robotics area in the hallway. We went on the roof. I was definitely most impressed with that pool. I had no idea that the bottom raised up, so when our special education students come in the mornings, they enter at zero entry, which was fantastic. The catwalk in the auditorium is quite something as well. So amazing structure, 525,000 square feet. So a lot of opportunities for students to excel in whatever they're interested in. Also last night I participated, I'm a member of the City of Saline, I live within the city limits. So I went to Mayor Marl's presentation and strategic visioning session with the City Council, including the two new City Council members. And they're going to type up all of the notes from community members. It was very interesting to see overlapping ideas between different committees that we have within the schools and what the City of Saline is thinking about growth and infrastructure and roads and services. So when they get those notes typed up, I'll send them along if you're interested. And this is our last meeting, so happy holidays to everybody here and everybody.
Thank you. Dennis? Michael? No, Michael? Response to public comment. Last time there was Again, some comments about dress code. It is being
Mr. After
talked about, reviewing some things, so there's a little movement on that. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor, please signify with aye. Aye. Those opposed with nay. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. Our scheduled report tonight is the Saline robotics team. Ms. Bendes.
Hello, we are the 3 Saline robotics team. Thank you for inviting us to this meeting.
It was on for a second.
Got a couple technical difficulties right now. Nothing new for the robotics team.
Yeah. Yeah, get it showed or yeah.
They probably all
Yeah.
Like every week or so.
Hello, we are the Saline robotics, the 3 Saline robotics teams. Thank you for inviting us to talk.
Okay, so first is a robotics, well, we have competitions that have robots trying to compete against each other with 2 alliances to create a given task. But it's a lot more than just that. So,
Yeah, as Eddie said, first whole motto, which stands for inspiration and recognition of science and technology, their whole motto is more than robots. They sort of sum this all together with 2 phrases, what they like to call gracious professionalism and cooperation, combination of cooperating and then competition. Part of their whole mission is we're not just going to be the best, win the competition, everything. We're going there to, of course, compete, but then help other teams while we're there, help our community, and then better people for careers in STEM and experience in STEM. And of course, gracious professionalism, being professional while you're doing that, being respectful to everyone at competitions in our community and at all these other events.
There are multiple different levels. As you can see, we probably wouldn't be able to fit all of these people into one robotics group. We have the first Lego League, or FLL, that's the elementary school Robos Forum. And then there's the FDC, the First Tech Challenge. That's the Hornet Hackers and the Cybugs. Those are the middle schools. And then there's the FRC, the First Robotic Competition. And that's the high schooler and Saline Singularity.
This is our RoboSwarm from Reddit.
So I'm a member of the Saline Middle School team that helped to set up the Saline FLL First Lego League team. This is their first year, and they had to build a robot out of the standard kit, and then address a problem, like complete and innovative solution for the public. And they won the award in that this year.
We have 8 weeks in our season to build our robot and complete the challenges before we go to competition. But due to some issues, we started 3 weeks late. And so we had 5 weeks to build our robot, and we won our thing. And then we won our award for one of our competitions.
For middle school, we have the Hornet Hackers and the Cybunks. On the middle school team, we split up into 2 different teams with 15 people each. We build the robots from a standard kits of robotic parts, and we also use engineering notebook and judging to practice public speaking and recording our advancements.
So each year we get a new challenge which replicates a real world problem. And each year it will fit onto a 12 by 12 foot field. And this year's challenge is we have to pick up yellow Lego style blocks and move them to the other side of the field and be able to push those around.
And finally, we have the high school team Saline Singularity. Now, our team is divided up into 5 different subgroups. We have business that writes award submissions, manages our budget, contacts sponsors, writes emails for our parents and sponsors to receive, and also makes videos for anyone to watch. Then we have the programming team, which obviously codes the robot so we can control it via a computer connected to our robot that when it runs on the field. We then have the electrical team, which makes sure all the wires are connected to make sure that the robot can move around and is powered. The mechanical team that puts together the whole robot. And the CAD team, which creates a computer visualization of what a robot is going to look like so we have an idea of what we're trying to build. Our team is mostly student-led. Each of the 5 sub-teams has a student leader. I am the student leader for the business team. Carter here is one of the student leaders for the programming team. And that's one of the main missions at first, to get students ready for their next steps in the world, to create the next future leaders. We meet quite often during the week, in total about 20 hours per week. And we have 6 weeks every year to build a robot from scratch to complete a challenge.
So the FRC Challenge is the largest and most complex in the first series. It's played on a much bigger field than any of the other competitions. Every year, as Spencer said, is different. There's a different challenge, different things we must complete, but it often involves some similar elements. Usually we have to move some sort of block or ball or cube, something. And then some other sort of irregular object like gears or panels or some other things too. And then there's also often a climbing element, so we have to make our very large robots climb up onto different things, which is definitely challenging. So when we are playing these games, we're playing on 3-team alliances. So that involves a lot of strategizing with other alliances, but it's also interesting because while one team may be our partner for one match, it could be our opponents for another. So it's interesting as you get to play against a lot of different teams, a lot of different playing styles, and lots of different strategy is involved in that.
So the high school has 35 members and 8 mentors.
The middle school has 30 students, 2 mentors, and 4 student mentors, which the student mentors are people that were in the middle school robotics team, but they're now in high school, but they decided to help the robotics team.
And the elementary has 12 students, 2 mentors, and 1 student mentor who helps set up our program.
Now, obviously, to build these robots, we have to get money from somewhere. So we go and contact businesses in our community and ask them if they'd like to sponsor us. The high school team has 7 sponsors in total. To enter an event for a competition is $5,000, and our usual budget for our robot every year is $2,500, but we can spend up to $5,000 on the robot. The middle school team has 5 sponsors, and then the elementary team, which, as mentioned earlier, had their rookie year, they're still working on getting a couple sponsors.
So as we talked about before, FIRST is much more than just building and competing with robots. One of the core values of FIRST is reaching out and giving back to the community, promoting STEM in our community. So that's something we've worked on over the summer and over the previous years, especially on the high school team, to try to expand our community offerings and community outreach. Some of the things we did is in the spring we had a workshop to get more girls interested in STEM because we've historically not had as many girls on our team. So we have tried to get them some more interested in STEM, gain some skills that can help them in a STEM career, and on the robotics team. We did a similar thing, but for everybody in the fall, trying to recruit people for our team, where we taught some different STEM skills. We also, with another Ann Arbor First team, over the summer hosted a workshop doing some different sort of fun things to learn about engineering, STEM, some principles of that for some elementary school kids. One of the members on our high school team started a elementary robotics program at Harvest, and those kids there, they are building Lego Boost robotics kits and then programming those to get sort of the first step into robotics and learning about robotics. We also participated in the club fair at the Saline Fair this year as the robotics team, showing the community a bit about what we do, and we took first place at that, so that was a great event for us. The middle school's team has been in the Saline Christmas Parade before, showing off their robot, and also in the science fair. We've attended the various high school and middle school open houses, and then also over the summer we built a t-shirt cannon robot to try and showcase our team in a bit more fun way.
Many of the student attributes relate to the first goals, so we'll be giving some examples of that.
Okay, so FLL, we had to talk to some of the judges to show off our core values, and we really had to use communication for that.
The core values are discovery, innovation, impact, teamwork, inclusion, and fun.
All of these helped us to reach out. We talked to students in this very school. We also presented to Steve Watch and other sources.
In the middle school robotics level, being a collaborative leader is very important because each year we have to come up with a new design to fit the different challenge, and we have to be collaborative with bouncing ideas off of each other. And yeah.
And then another key aspect of everything that involves FIRST is communication. On our team specifically, as I mentioned earlier, we have the 5 sub-teams. And without communication between all those teams, we wouldn't be able to coordinate, get our robot built, know how much we're spending, what we're buying. And then there's also a lot that happens at the competition level.
Yeah, so as I said before, we're on alliances with many different teams throughout there. So before each match we have to go and we have to communicate with these teams, discuss what's our strengths, what's our weaknesses, and what's their strengths and weaknesses, and develop a strategy around that. Who's going to do what? How can we best sort of compete against our opponent in this match? So there's a lot of collaboration involved, sort of on the spot in competition as well. And of course, across all the different levels of FIRST, creativity, creative problem solvers is very important as we have to build these robots for different things every year and to complete all these different challenges. And we don't have an instruction manual really to do this, so it's a very creative process.
Any questions?
Too many. I met you, can I start? I met you, some of you at the Saline Community Fair, and we started chatting, and I got very excited by all the work you did. And I lost track of how many aspects of the Saline Area Schools Compass your work was hitting on, so carry on, good job. I was going to ask questions about the software and a few other things, but how did you place statewide the seniors, Saline Singularity? You were in a big competition, weren't you?
My freshman year, our team actually made it all the way to states, and I'm not quite sure of the rankings right now for the previous years.
When is the next competition coming up?
Our season begins in January. That's when they release the challenge video, and from that day forward, we have the 6 weeks to plan out what we're going to do.
I'm actually going to jump in real quick. I'm one of the mentors for the high school team, but the middle school team just qualified for states and it's this weekend, right?
Yes.
So they have their state competition this weekend. So they're doing a really great job this year, and we would welcome any of you, to any of the meetings. So the middle school team meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays right now, and the high school team is going to meet Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays in the season, and we'll also be sure to send you our competition dates. They haven't really been released yet, so we're still working on that schedule, but the state competition for the middle schoolers is this weekend, and they're doing a really great job. Becky, where is it?
It's at the Kellogg.
Is it?
In Battle Creek.
Oh, okay. All right, continue. I just wanted to make sure you guys have that schedule, because I knew that they didn't know about that yet.
I just wanted to share, an article I read recently that said that Generation Z, you know, the Gen Zers, I think that's where you fall, can't even, they don't own screwdrivers. And just the other day, we were talking about maybe running screwdriver 101 at the university level, and I thought, no, that's not possible. And I look at you people, and I say, absolutely not necessary. So I'm so pleased with the work you guys are doing. You guys, y'all, all of you.
Well, if there's no further
I do have a question.
Oh,
So the
sorry.
$5,000 entry fee in that, is there prizes you win to get money back at the end? I mean, the people that place first or second, do they get prize money or no?
There is no prize
Just
money.
the-
You just get ranking points that can help you get to states. Each year, the way you qualify for states is getting enough ranking points to place you high enough in the ranking for the state competition. Michigan is special because we have the most teams in the country, so it's very competitive.
It's for the honor.
We
For the
also win
honor.
a blue banner. If you win a competition, you get a blue banner, and every one of the high school team knows the blue banner.
Well, the color's good.
Is there anything that schools can do to help you out? Is there one thing that you could name? What would it be?
In Bedford, they have an actual class in school for robotics. So they meet every day, and that helps out them. That helps them a lot.
Also, you're already doing stuff. We used to have to go to MakerWorks, like my first year, like all the way out. Yeah. Now we go into the middle school spot for that.
Perhaps expanding that.
Right. That'd be a good idea. Like a space where we can keep the field set up, maybe, because we have to pack it up each time.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'd like to just make a couple comments that the Michigan Department of Education puts so much great importance on push robotics that they're dumping tons of money into grants because they believe this direction is so important for school districts, and all of these teams are helped out somewhat financially with grant money. The other thing to point out is not only are the students spending a lot of time on this, these coaches are spending tons of time, and all the parents are
No, adding on to that, both of our coaches for the middle school, they used to have kids in robotics, but now they don't. So every Tuesday and Thursday, they spend about 2 or 3 hours each night at the hot spot. And they didn't even have any kids.
Great.
That's awesome.
I did want to step in. I'm one of the other mentors for the high school team. As far as like direct prizes for winning, honestly, in first, how well the robot does doesn't matter. Like, it feels good, you learn a lot, it's a good experience. But it's building the robot, building those skills is the point. So no, there's no direct prize for that. But especially once you make it through, if you graduate out of the program, if I remember right, there's close to $1 billion last year worth of scholarships to just about every university.
Great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. And you had asked how you could help or how you have helped. The high school students know we just gained our own space, and having some growing pains with that, but working into it. But we appreciate that we have our own space now, that we're able to grow the program a little bit and actually own our space.
Great.
Yes, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Good work, everyone.
Thank you. This is one of their practice nights. They got to get to practice. Tuesday night, we got a competition coming up this weekend.
You email it to us. We'll definitely have this
Regardless if it's another topic. That's the policy. And I know we like this.
Action items. Can I have a recommended motion to approve bid categories A through L outlined in the Frank Rewald and Son Incorporated proposal in the amount of $1,222,340 as submitted by Superintendent Graydon?
All right, as you read through the packet, we had approximately 36 bids received for the variety of bid categories, inclusive of the office work, inclusive of some of the security work here, plumbing, mechanical, and we are continuing to work through aspects of this facility and kind of removing the steam system, and so that continues through this process. I did see Kurt Rader from Frank Rewald and Son Incorporated here. If you have any other questions for him. We were very pleased with the bid coverage, and even given the climate in terms of the cost structure associated with construction, we were very pleased with the bids we did receive. Through a process of evaluating the contractors and are comfortable with the recommendations this evening.
I noticed the amount of bids that were received.
Yeah.
Some dark bids or something like that.
Yeah. We have not seen this type of bid coverage in several years.
Is that because work's slowing down downtown a little bit?
I think it's a combination. One thing is I do think this is a build while occupied scenario. We're somewhat in the window now where we're while it's a challenge and will present a challenge from an operational standpoint, there maybe are some advantages there. I will say, Frank Rewald and Son is adapt at kind of this idea of doing construction in buildings that are occupied. So we're excited to be able to take advantage of that. And also, Frank Rewald does a lot of work in the area and has a reputation of handling their contractors very well, and worked very hard, and Kurt was part of that, worked very hard to make sure that we did get sufficient bids. And again, many of I think virtually all of the contractors that were ended up awarded were people who had previous experience with Rewald or previous experience with Saline schools. So again, I think it's a combination of things, but there's a lot of hard work that did go into it because, again, we were bidding prior to the holiday season coming up as well.
So it's not the first one's out.
Yes, it did. Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions or discussion?
No.
All those in favor, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with nay. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve the proposed contract from Elevate Interior Construction in the amount of $276,772.25 as submitted by Superintendent Graydon?
So moved.
Support.
This essentially, a lot of times you will hear us say the dirt wall system. This is a modular wall system. We will hold contract for this. Again, this is the actual equipment itself. Frank Rewald and Son Incorporated also has experience in installing this wall system. Again, this is a modular wall system. I would say this is not your typical, what you perceive as a modular wall system. And it's something we hope we're able to use throughout the district over time. And really becoming very efficient in terms of our ability to create flexible and collaborative spaces within the district. We feel it's going to be as durable as necessary and adaptable and flexible as necessary. So we're excited to have this as part of the project.
Was this the same dirt system you saw up in Calgary?
Yep, this is a Canadian company.
Canadian, you
yes,
say?
well, this is Elevate Interiors is the company that essentially represents them here in Michigan, but it is a Canadian company out of Western Canada.
Is there, how many sections, feet of wall are we getting
Yeah,
throughout?
I didn't have the exact number there, but this includes not only the wall systems, it does include also the electrical systems, doors, and hardware, with everything that you would see essentially what is currently wood, both in the main central office, HR, finance, as well as parts kind of the special education area. So, probably in the neighborhood of 4,000 or 5,000 square feet of area.
So then that makes it flexible for future.
Yep.
Discussion. All those in favor, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with nay. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve the purchase of 4 new pieces of Train HVAC equipment in the amount of $152,500 as submitted by Superintendent Graydon? Is Rick's not here?
Yeah, actually, Mr. Clary is not here. His son has his first basketball game of the night. This is the train equipment. As you know, we have specified train in an effort to have similar equipment across the district as well as similar control systems. And this, again, is something that Frank Rewald and Son will manage the train installation, and the mechanical contractor that will be installing it was in our previously approved bid package, but we will be the ones purchasing train directly through a cooperative bid program.
This is how we purchase the equipment.
Yes, correct. This is the process.
It's all going to arrive over the summer.
It will. This better arrive here around April.
Oh.
So yeah, yep. So this will be done relatively soon. So this is one of the things, both for the dirt wall system and train. We want to, if these are approved tonight, we're going to hopefully get them moving, because I don't call them long lead items, but they need to get moving.
They prove reliable in other.
They have, yes, they have proved. Train is a a very, what I would consider to be a name brand top line unit from a commercial setting. We have done some overlay relative to the control systems. One of the criticisms of Train is that they tend to want to use their own control systems to manage. We now have a system that overlays across that and now allows us to manage the train as well as some of the other older units we have, and we feel it's working well.
And quality air systems, mechanical contractors, they're going to be.
Correct. They'll be installing this. Yeah.
Have we worked with them at all?
We have not. Rewald has, and so we went through that process of discussing them.
Great.
Yep.
All those in favor, please signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed with nay. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve the 2020-2021 high school course adoption as submitted by Assistant Superintendent Lodge? Support?
Assistant Superintendent Lodge.
Good evening. All of you should have a handout that gives a summary of the 6 courses being proposed, and then we're going to refer to that on the screens as well. So the first course being proposed, and what you'll see there is the teacher that's proposing it on the left side, Sarah Wiest. And this course title is World Literature AB. As some of you know, we used to have a course called British Literature. And the idea here is to replace that title course for World Literature AB, 2 trimesters, as an English 11 option. And the idea here is that in our efforts to expand a more culturally inclusive curriculum, we are expanding the types of authors that are being exposed to our students as well. British literature, largely white male-based authors. We're trying to offer a world literature course that offers a different perspective on a variety of different authors' points of view. And this will be also offered in a blended option. As some of you know, we have blended online learning for students if they prefer that option, and this would be one of those courses. And then I'm also listing whether there's a cost involved in the course or not. In this case, there isn't. So that's the first. The second is a continuation of our wildly popular Connecting program, and submitted by Trish Fair. And this is the last in the sequences of Connecting courses, largely based for seniors as a 1 trimester option, potentially expanding into 2 trimesters if interest was great enough. And this is really geared towards students that are really serious about going into education and or special education, and looks at expanding SEL, stands for social emotional learning skills, and special education procedures, learning about IEPs and a little more in-depth coverage about special education. And a lot of this has come in conversation with the Eastern Michigan University Dean and saying, how do we expand some of these interesting offerings in Connecting? He had caught wind of this program and said, that would be great to potentially transition into giving some college credit for a course like this for students considering this, potentially going to Eastern or other places as well. So that's the second offering here. The third, Brett Parachuk, he's also our math department chair. And this is really just an expansion. AP statistics moving to 3 trimesters instead of 2. The idea behind this is it would provide more expansive and in-depth coverage of statistics. Most of our AP classes are expanding into 3 trimesters anyway.
And this would offer that. Now, we still would offer regular statistics, although many students may wish to pursue the AP option now that it is expanded to 3. And Triska Beasley, a teacher who teaches statistics, feels like that's an expansive option for some students that might not normally take an AP course here. And so that's the proposal for the third proposal. The fourth one is being proposed by Steve Sartori, a technology instructor, and Scott Marvin, one of our math teachers. And the course title is Technical Math. And the idea here is that a lot of our students, when they are done with the Algebra 2 sequence, they really do, maybe they're not as interested in math or want a different way of learning math, and they're needing to take a 4th credit anyway in math when they get to their 4th credit senior year. This could count as the math credit or a tech credit, and it's designed in more of a project-based learning format, real application of math, technology and engineering skills. You bring all that together, and you have technical math. Potential costs in providing a textbook and or some supplies listed there at approximately $3,000. And this could be taught by either Steve or Scott or both, depending on numbers and interest of our student base. The next course is one that has been in the hopper for a number of years. So is it a new course? It will be a new offering, but this Project Lead the Way sequence of biomedical science has been around for the last several years. So this is course 3 for students that are in that mix. The first one being Principles of Biomedical Science, the second one being Human Body Systems, and this third offering, which I think is a really exciting offering, is called Medical Interventions, and ultimately it follows, I put a little note there, it follows a fictitious family as they diagnose and treat diseases, and they do this in a real hands-on format to try to take them through the process of, you know, what it is like to be in a medical hospital or a medical environment and learn about in a hands-on approach. We've actually already, as part of the sequencing, we had already purchased supplies for this course to run as part of the third in the sequence. The last one, this is actually fairly confusing, but a really ingenious approach, we think, for German. So Dwayne Stange, our German teacher, has been studying how other districts are figuring out ways to offer higher level German courses, but give kids options and more flexibility in their schedule. Because one of the things that we run into, especially when kids are trying to take these higher level language requirements is, well, actually electives, is that they can't fit them in their schedules, running 2 tries together, and the sequencing doesn't work. So Dwayne's proposing this flexible model, and it's all based on the AP German Language Culture recommended contexts, and there's 6 of them. And so he's actually designed 6 one-trimester offerings exploring German identity, innovation in German-speaking Europe, global challenges, immigration and diversity, creative Germany, current events and perspectives. And what he plans to do, assuming this gets approved, is offer 2 of those options next year so that students can funnel into those one-trimester courses. And then let's say that it was the A and B offering for next year, then he would know not to offer those the following year so that kids could sequence up, and he would offer the C and D option, for example. So it's a real creative way of scheduling, but one in which could give greater flexibility for students to pursue higher level languages, which is sometimes difficult when there's one language instructor in this case. So those are our 6 proposed courses. Questions?
First of all, I'd like to say I appreciate you putting the information in the work packet here from the teachers that they fill out. But can you kind of explain what the process is on these adoptions and how they come up with this?
Sure. So the way this works is that the teacher leaders in each department request new course proposals. And then they are submitted on behalf of the department. And the department looks at it, and they try to determine how will this play out in terms of student enrollment. Because every time you propose a new course, you're trying to figure out, well, if that course runs, then there's a potential other course that's not running, or maybe a section of that other course doesn't run. So they work through that process in the department. Then they bring that to a whole group teacher leader meeting where all the department chairs come together with the high school administration, and they talk through the coursework. So they submit the information that we're asking about. Course title, description, cost. We are also asking now how these courses fit into our vision with the compass, like how is that actually going to be supported? And then ultimately, it's not up for the department chairs to decide whether the courses will run anymore. That used to be part of the process, but the issue there was that it sometimes would pit departments against each other, trying to say like this one should run, even though if that one runs in the social studies department, might that mean less kids taking the science class and that kind of thing. So after we have that discussion with the teacher leader group, David and myself go and discuss the merits of all of these courses and consider how they all work together with the entire high school schedule. And then assuming we feel like they fit well with the model, we bring them forward to you.
Just because a course may be adopted doesn't necessarily mean a course is going to run.
Right. And that often happens where a course will be proposed. For example, we're not sure the Connecting 3 will have enough interest to run, but it would be a course that would fulfill a need for those students that are really enjoying Connecting, and if they can make that work in their senior schedule, it very well might. In fact, most courses, when they're getting started, sometimes they do struggle to get initial enrollment. Others don't, like the race and ethnicity course last year went to 3 sections right away. There was a lot of student interest. But then that did take away from another social studies class somewhere. That's just the nature of, it's one pot.
I have a question. You said that with the Connecting 3, you've talked to Eastern. Have you checked that with some of the other colleges that do teaching to see if they're also interested in giving some credit?
Yeah, it was really a pretty new conversation. Scott was involved, so we haven't had a chance to do that, but there very well may be interested. I mean, a lot of colleges are recognizing that if they can give some college credit, that may be enticing for students then to go to that school. So we certainly can reach out
to others.
Yeah. I'm actually, I'm delighted. I was at that meeting with Dean Saylor and Trish Fair and company.
Right.
It was great, but I almost don't care if the students come to Eastern. I want them to get into the pipeline.
Yeah.
It was an excellent.
Special education.
So it's a great start. So I've got a bunch of questions. Last year, one of the offerings was the Android app creator. It never got off. It didn't run. Does it automatically get put into the hopper to try again? Has it already been like pre-approved and the instructor might try again?
It depends on where the department then will discuss it again and determine, okay, is that something that moves forward? Sometimes it does happen and sometimes it doesn't. There are courses that sometimes run every other year. A good example was AP Environmental Science. That's often an every other year type of course. We've talked about some music theory courses that would run every other year because all the teachers have figured out that, a student takes that class, it's taken away from some other course, and they're always trying to make that work. But the good thing about it all is that they're always coming up with new and innovative ways to continue to try to offer things that students are more interested in now that maybe they weren't before.
That's a living process. I think it's great. I still have a few more questions. You had mentioned that the AP has gone from two trimesters to 3, and it seems to be a process that's happening all across the board. All across the board in our school, or all across the board all over Michigan?
I'd say, most AP classes are running 3 tries. At least the vast majority are. The nature of the AP exam happens in the spring, and it's leading up to that.
This is a national trend.
I think most, to my knowledge, most AP courses run the whole year.
All right. Interesting, you $0 on everything, and then it suddenly dawned on me just as you flip the slides, technical math is $3,000?
Well, that's based on, there's a proposed text that would potentially cost around $100. Now, we're sort of if we were to run it, and if there were 30 students, if there were 25, we'd have to say, oh, that'd be $2,500, and then potential supplies if they wanted to do some hands-on activities.
Spread that out over the 3 years.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The medical interventions, is that exactly the same name as the one that was promoted last year? Because it ran last year, and there were like 20 students. And by the way, I asked David Raff, or Principal Raff, for which course is actually made, and I'll send that document.
Human body systems, and then now medical
Now it's
interventions.
medical. I thought it was called medical interventions last time, but I
Well,
could be wrong.
the sequence has always been these 3 classes. It's just when they're running because of the number of kids going through the, almost like freshman, sophomore.
Is that why that one of the applications was a bit on the thin side? I think there was just a single page printed out.
Yes, that had already been in process the year before.
All right. Well, thanks. That answers a lot of my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions?
So, with the adoption of the first trimester for AP statistics, is that going to add more to the current AP curriculum, or is that going to pull regular statistics into the AP curriculum? So what I mean regular statistics is the first 5 chapters of AP statistics.
It will pull that in.
So it's going to pull that, and then is regular statistics going to have its own curriculum?
We would try, we would offer regular statistics, but there is a potential that a lot of students may say, okay, I'm going to get the regular part in Try 1 anyway now, and I could potentially, get that AP credit if I move forward with the entire class. So still offer regular statistics, but there is a chance that it wouldn't run. We'll have to see how it plays out, because you're right, the first part, the first try in general is that regular statistics part plays out in the AP part too. Good question. Other questions?
I have a question about the German sequence, since we have what I call challenges keeping language teachers. So if we, somehow don't have a teacher for the 3rd sequence or the 2nd sequence 1 year, is there sort of a backup plan to, can they go down, can't go online or anything, right?
And this teacher is a middle school teacher, correct?
No.
Oh, he's our German
Both.
teacher. I mean, he's our German teacher. So, he's proposing it as in this is the way to properly build it to be able to sustain some of those higher level courses. Sure, if
that's
in the
the
middle of
same
the year
for
we didn't have,
anyone,
those higher end German courses could be offered online. That wouldn't be our intention, but you're right, we definitely have had attrition in the world language department, and we need to continue to work to solidify that department. There's no question.
What's the current enrollment in German in middle school and high school?
I can't tell you the exact numbers, but it's enough that Dwayne Stange is full-time in the process, but that process is 60 kids here. You're working off a pool, running an A/B schedule type of thing. So I don't have the exact numbers. Right.
Make sure it was worth the time, money, investment, a staff member running back and forth.
Right. Yeah, we feel it is.
Kids in a classroom.
Right. Well, we wouldn't run it with 10 kids in the classroom.
Do you have a minimum threshold for this?
Well, we usually start our class work where we start to say which classes have 25 students, and then we move forward. But we do flex both ways. And the high school complexity of the schedule, which has taken us a long time to recognize, it's really difficult to run every class exactly the size you anticipate because of drops and adds, and students need required classes here, and they need room to move into other classes. And unlike at the elementary school where students are in one class all day, you understand the stagnant number. The high school schedule is so fluid that we often do end up with classes that there's 18 kids in this class and that there's 30 in this one. And although we're doing the best we can to make sure that schedules are filled, that's fairly complex at that level, and so they fluctuate quite a bit.
Right, and you do want to give choice.
Right.
What are the other languages that are taught at the high school right now? How deep do they go? Do they go as deep as this German proposal?
Well, there's Spanish and French. The proposals at those levels are still more traditional, that you would work your way up through Spanish 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is Dwayne's method of saying, hey, we could engage more students in this way. It wouldn't depend as much on, like those courses don't necessarily build on each other, and they're one trimester. There's just more flexibility for students to give them more options on pursuing German in that way.
Well, I think it's excellent for, my son had German to 3, but then he couldn't get that whole 4, but he
Right.
would love to have
One
at least
try.
one more
Yeah.
class.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think it's great to have options.
Right. And I know that Dwayne worked hard on this proposal because he was really creating 6 different courses based on that model.
It's hard for, if you're music and a foreign language, if you try
To make it all happen.
your
Right.
electives and your other courses.
Right,
So
right.
That's great.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
All those in favor, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with nay. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. Kind of a motion to adopt policy 2410, prohibition of referral or assistance as submitted by the Board Policy Committee.
Support.
As a policy chair, we talked about this one at the last meeting. This is our second reading. Did you have anything to add?
No, we just are recommending adoption as advised through Neola based on the MCL.
It's really just a
Pro forma.
wording change, correct?
Yep.
Pro forma.
All those in favor, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed with nay. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve the changes to policy 2414, reproductive health and family planning, as submitted by the Board Policy Committee?
So moved.
Second. As noted at the last meeting, this was again an update of the language based on the Neola recommendations.
Any questions or other discussion? All those in favor, please signify with aye. Aye. Those opposed with nay. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve the changes to policy 2418, sex education, as submitted by the Board Policy Committee?
So moved. See my previous comment. No, without being glib, it's an update to the language based on what Neola presented to us and we approved, or we agreed.
It was all the same language.
Virtually, yeah.
Yes. Strike out of one, and it broadened the people who could not make referrals.
All those in favor, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with nay. Hearing none, motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve the 2019 board stipends as submitted by Superintendent Grade?
Second.
These are the last meeting of the year, and so we are proposing to do the board stipend payments.
I'd like to note 2 things. One is that we had no disciplinary hearings for this past calendar year, which is a good thing. And some of us got double dinged for not being on the budget hearing. I've got to say, it happened to me last year because I'm always out of town at that meeting.
That's right.
So,
And
That's a
Mr.
plan
Valenti
issue.
gets extra star because he never missed a meeting.
and that's the whole point of me complaining about that double ding is because,
He would have been right there.
Yeah,
I know.
right there.
oh well, as they say.
All those in favor, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with nay. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve the January 14th, 2020 Board of Education organizational and regular meetings as is submitted by Superintendent Grade?
So moved.
Support.
For board action, we are setting the first meeting of the new year. It will be our organizational meeting, following the traditional cadence of going the second Tuesday of the month.
So this used to be, we used to set the calendar at this meeting for the whole next year, but that violates OMA, so we can't do it until after the organizational meeting the first of the year. So we had to add 2 more meetings to the current calendar to be in compliance with the law. So after the organizational meeting, we'll have next year's worth of meetings set up.
So just to be clear, we're having our organizational meeting at which we will determine the calendar?
No.
So we'll have our organizational
There's a
meeting,
meeting.
and the next meeting, we will determine the calendar.
Well, the meetings are the same night.
So there goes that double ding.
Happens first and then
Once you have an organization in place, then you can start each is the idea.
Okie dokie, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify with aye. Aye. Those opposed by nay. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. Discussion items, board terms, policy 142.3. We, over the course of probably the last 3 election cycles, have heard back from potential candidates that 6-year terms were a lot for them to handle. They were interested in board service. They didn't want to just serve a few years, resign. Do you remember what year this law came about?
I was in the neighborhood of 2014.
The board at the time was very conflicted about whether to go with 4 and 6. They ended up with 6, and not even, I don't think it was a unanimous vote. I think it was
I don't
pretty
recall.
split.
It was split at the time. Essentially, the state moved, and you used to have your board election every year, and now you have it every other year. So the decision point that boards had to make at that time really were related to if you stayed with, at the time we had 4-year terms, and it was 2-2-2-1, meaning 2 members, 2 members, 2 members, 1 every 4 years. And if you were to stay with a 4-year term, you essentially become a 4-member and a 3-member election cycle, and the decision was made to go with a 2-2-3 cycle to maintain the idea that you would have a broader approach in the 6-year term. And so that was the case that was made then, and we've kind of worked through that. It takes a little bit of a cycle because you can't extend or you can't reduce terms, et cetera. And so there was a transition period, and I think the board would be involved with that again this time. If you transition from 6 to 4, there would be a kind of a mix of terms moving forward until it goes through the process.
If we do this, there are 3 seats up for election next year. There will be 1 6-year term still and 2 4-year terms.
So that's something I had a question on, because I was guessing we would not be going to move on something like this in an election year. It would have to be in an off election year. So this is something that is being considered for 2020.
Correct.
I think, coming from a board in my last district that had 4-year terms versus 6-year terms, it is a lot easier to get people to commit. And after you've done 1 term, to say, okay, now I'm going to do another 6-year, and sometimes you want to have your kids in the district when you're on the board or something like that. Well, it's like, I'm not quite ready to stop, but I can't really do a whole another 6 years. And so I think sometimes that 4 years is a little easier for people to stay on and stay the course instead of, a long commitment. And we want to have people who are engaged in the district with their kids in the school as much as possible.
Well, last year we had 6 candidates for 2 positions. They didn't seem to have any trouble finding them. How many should we have? What's reasonable?
I don't think any number is reasonable. Rephrase
that?
The more the merrier, true, but the last 2 election cycles we've held informational meetings with candidates, describe them, what it means to be a board member, describe this, describe that. Only 1 person out of those 2 meetings ever ran for the board. The feedback has been the 6-year term is too long.
In the election cycle before that, we only had 3, 4, 2. And so you were. So I'm in favor of
In the
a
first
4-year
term,
term.
I think there were 3 people up and only 3 people.
When I ran the first time, I was unopposed.
I think it's a changing climate. I wouldn't expect that this time. As one of the people who ran last time, it was something that I was asked quite often. I would have been fine with 4 or 6. It didn't matter to me. I wanted to serve. So unfortunately, Susan isn't here to give her response, and she was a member of that group as well. But in the community conversations and Q&As that were going on, I think it was managed pretty well with the candidates that ended up running. I'm not for or opposed before I have to get more information. But one thing I would definitely want is community feedback. So we're in the trust of the community and the voters. But we want to know what they thought. I would want to know if they are more in favor of a 4-year term or a 6-year term, and if they're in favor of changing it during an election year as well.
Well, you can only change it during an election year because it doesn't.
No, changing the policy. So if we change the policy in 2019 or 2021 versus 2020.
I guess the idea is to, if the feedback is such that we want 4-year terms, we need to do it as soon as possible. People can file today to run for school board next year. So we need to let the county clerk know as soon as possible that we'll have 1 6-year term and 2 4-year terms of the 3 seats that are open next year.
Right, but I think the closing date is something like July 1st or something like that. So
But,
we have a little bit of time. My point is, I'd be interested to know what the community thinks about it.
Feedback.
Since they'll vote.
I mean, feedback over the last 3 or 4 years has been 6 years is too long. So, I mean, they have 2 weeks to let us know before this comes up for action on the next agenda.
So we'll be doing some type of survey or forum or
Ask around.
Yeah, I mean.
It doesn't have to be a whole forum to be able to get feedback from the community. Ask around your people and find out how people feel.
I think the one, two just points of comment. One is that once we tell the clerk if we were to make this change, people would then have to file for either the 6 or the 4. I mean, you would choose. It wouldn't be like I'm filed and someone's going to just get stuck with 6. So understand, whoever ran would be running for a specific term length. And the one thing when we used to have 4-year terms, the likelihood of multi-term, I think when you think about it as opposed to necessarily 4 or 6, if you think about it 8 versus 12, I think it's unlikely to have many. We've had a few 3-year term people back when the 4-year times, but if you think about it in terms of someone to do multiple terms, probably more likely with 4. I mean, that was the practice then. So.
You and I talked about this back when I was going to run. What's the best practice feedback that you see in other districts?
Yeah, it's divided. It is split. I will say, the traditional wisdom comes from, that you don't want large swings in board members. So that's where the 6-year term philosophy comes from, that you want to have stability in terms of membership and over time. The situation we had ourselves in a few years ago is that we had 6-year terms, not related to inability to complete their term because of the length of the term, but with a couple of different health scenarios. We had people so it got to a spot where we were having resignations and then 2-year terms and different things. So it does get complex with 6-year terms at times.
Any comments? Public participation at board meetings, policy 1673. There's proposed changes. The intent of this meeting is to conduct the business of the board of the school district, not to engage public discussion on topics that are not on the agenda at first. We're interested in how people feel about agenda items before we discuss and do action on them. So I did a quick survey of a bunch of random districts. Most districts have this policy in place. It goes the gamut. Some have a 30-minute period. They take how many people want to talk. They divide that 30 minutes by the number of people, and I mean, they actually, one district used an example where everyone had 45 seconds to talk, which I don't think is sufficient if you're trying to get your point across. But it, in my opinion, to make the process of running the meeting go a little smoother, it would also entertain more public input on our agenda items. We get very few emails with anyone commenting on our agenda items. I mean, any public comment at all. The other part of this, so the wording reads, limited to agenda item for the first 30-minute period. A second public participation portion will be offered at the end of the agenda to allow for comment on non-agenda items, essentially to get public input on all topics, and additional time for comment on agenda items if necessary. And the other change to this policy is attendees must register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting before the meeting starts. And I don't mean to exactly call it out, but I notice a lot of people hear something that they don't like. If someone says in public comment, they run back and fill out a form. So it turns into a little bit of debate, not to public comment or public input. So most districts are pretty up with that one as well. Some people specify that forms will be available 30 minutes before the meeting starts. We can be, as flexible on that as we need to.
Could the form be submitted maybe in a different location, so they're emailed by a certain time, or something like that, so feedback could come, so we know what might be on the agenda to be after, but the problem is you don't know how long the board meetings are going to be and when that second portion might be up.
How, I know we've tried to make a concerted effort to allow the students to come in and get them up first. How is this going to play out if the students come in?
Well,
yeah, they don't necessarily have an agenda item.
Like the dress code, for example.
If we get our forms before the meeting starts, there's 3 people who want to talk about an agenda item, and you see 3 students who want to talk, you can easily accommodate those into the 30-minute rule. I mean, these are rules, and it states that the rules are rules for the presiding officer to follow. He can say, all right, I've got 8 people, 5 want to talk about agenda, the other 3 are students and want to talk about a different topic. So we could do all 11 at the beginning, as long as they fit into the 30 minutes, or we can go to 40 minutes if the presiding officer feels like he should do that.
So the presiding officer would have the ability to, I guess,
It can be flexible. I mean, we've pretty much gone from what used to be no holds barred freedom system to having to put a few rules on it, just because this meeting is to conduct the business of the district. There's a ton of other ways to get public input on all kinds of district topics. Emails, talk to us. Any other questions or comments?
I had a couple of comments. So you and I have talked about this, and I do see the point about having public comment pertaining to the agenda items to help inform decision-making up here. I definitely do. I do like the idea of adding something around the student voice to Tim's point, and I don't necessarily want to be the one that says, students, this is on the agenda, so you can't speak to anything else. I think they should be able to speak on, or a parent or a community member should be able to speak on anything. I do see the prioritization to help inform decision-making by taking those agenda items. I don't think the form right now has what they want to talk about, so that would have to
it would be updated.
Change which agenda item does this pertain to, so we'd have to think about that. I disagree a little bit more with item C, that I do believe that if someone wants to stay until the second half and wants to make a public comment, but if they didn't fill out a form at the beginning of the meeting, they should still be able to speak, if we have time for them to speak. So I see the point with A. I think C goes a little far.
So you're saying, Jennifer, for C, you're suggesting before the meeting starts or upon their arrival. It sounded like what you're saying would make more sense, which is the language they had before.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I'd like to learn more about why we would want to limit anyone from speaking at any time in that second half if it pertains to
It's the it's somebody presenting and somebody not liking it.
Right, and we want to
debate.
avoid that.
We don't
sure.
want the debate. It's not, this is not the
Yeah.
format for having those kinds of debates.
Yeah.
So maybe in a situation like that, then you just, you know, if you started the second round of public comments, at that point in time, you've got all the forms. You don't accept any more at that time. I don't know.
That's exactly
throughout
what,
the- throughout
that's
the-
exactly what I was going to suggest, is once that second round of public comment starts, all requests have to be in. We can't get this, well, okay, someone did that, quickly run in and another public comment in.
I think that's a good compromise.
Have you had people in the past years submit submit forms electronically before the meeting? To kind of,
Only when they want to be scheduled on the upcoming agenda.
Okay.
Not in terms of, hey, I'm coming tonight or I'm coming soon.
Yeah, and I think continuing to educate people on what our policy around public comment is, because I know people have asked me, how do I do it? And kind of run down, okay, you show up and you fill out the form. So us continuing to make sure people understand what the policy is.
Yeah, in actuality, I mean, before the last year and a half to two, we would very rarely have someone
More than, we
Right.
never had
never
more
had
than
public
30.
comment.
Right.
So, and public comment's always good to get, but we have been harangued a little bit in the past at a committee meeting by having two-way conversations, and that's not how you're supposed to get
Right.
public input either. So we could, and I talked about this a little bit, about scheduling quarterly public input meetings where we just have a meeting, public's here, they can say whatever they want to say for however long that we can sit and listen. I mean,
I actually just read about another school district doing that. It was on a particular topic, but it was separate from board business.
So I have a historic question now. If we go back, or cast your mind back to 2008 during the Superintendent Geltner's time, and you had 300 people lined up to speak. Obviously, that's an exception. Would we have been able to apply these strict rules to that large group of people?
did you mean when they canceled football?
The football one, yeah. And we had. Did you say there were about 300 people, and you were secretary at the time, weren't
Yeah.
you? With the
Patty was on a
handprints?
cruise, so I had to take very good notes.
So I'm just wondering if that would have worked. I mean, there are sometimes there are exceptional circumstances that.
Correct. And these are not hard and fast policies. They're rules that the presiding officer shall be guided by.
All right.
So, I mean, we've made exceptions for a lot of things.
That's good.
Isn't there something, or maybe it was something else I read, where the large groups have only a certain number of representatives that
Right.
speak under one voice? Yeah.
And that was not in the policy at that
Well,
time.
large groups of people as opposed to large numbers of people, that's different.
Right.
Well, and I can tell you, almost every one of them that spoke that day said the same thing. We're mad because you canceled freshman football,
Okay.
with various reasons why they were mad, and
And not a single one disparaged a board member, right?
wasn't our decision, so, no, was not.
There's no time limit to the second meeting, so it's not, it's held in 30 minutes, so I guess if 300 want to stay up here, as long as they bring us coffee.
And give the best.
Tidbit.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's your duty. Oh, did you hear that?
I heard I have to bring coffee, even though I don't drink coffee, so it'll be really weak, but you know.
Thanks, everyone. Board Finance Committee update, Trustee Valenti.
Yes, we had our meeting Monday. One of the things we're working on is looking at long-term projections to our budget instead of just looking at our annual budget, looking at 1 year. We're trying to look at more of a 3 to 5 year range to try to get us to correct our problems that we have now. It's not going to be a short-term solution. It's going to be more of a long-term. So to do that, we are also looking backwards. We look back at trends over the last 4 years, looking at certain items that have higher growth in certain expenses than our revenue growth, and trying to figure out how we can perhaps slow that growth down to try to get a budget on a longer-term basis back in line with where we would like it to be. So that's what we're working on, in addition to looking for additional revenue. Anything else?
Great.
Good.
Nailed it.
All right.
Thanks, Dennis. Consent agenda. Can I have a motion to authorize the following items as part of the consent agenda? A, approval of the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of November 26, 2019. B, approval of the Board Finance Committee meeting minutes of December 2nd, 2019. C, approval of payment of the general fund accounts payable of December 10th, 2019 in the amount of $427,453.49. D, approval of payment of Bond Fund Series 2 accounts payable of December 10th, 2019 in the amount of $16,285.48. E, receive and file the December Curriculum, Finance, and Human Resources reports. F, approval of the following field trips as requested by Superintendent Graydon. Field Trip 71, the BPA State Competition on March 19th to 20th, 2020 in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
So moved.
All those in favor, please signify with aye.
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 Those opposed with nay. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. The next agenda, we'll have two, or really a long agenda. First, we'll start with our organizational meeting, election of officers, and then we'll go into regular meeting. You know what we have planned? No?
Nope.
Okay. It'll be fascinating, I'm sure. Okay, our second public comment period, Adam Davis.
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you. I wanted to comment on a few items you've just discussed or heard. Regarding the Saline School dress code, most places of employment have a dress code, whether for safety, such as OSHA requirements, customer presentation, such as the hostess or wait staff of a restaurant, or business attire and professional capabilities. Calling out specific items of clothing is common in society. No shirt, no shoes, no service, for instance, or attending a black tie event. I find the policy as stated in the student manual follows best practices and needs no specific revision or change. Having a dress code is a healthy way to help our youth learn and understand that dress codes are somewhat subjective. The point isn't to give them a hard line that they can get as close to as they can without going over, but to give them guidelines, then sit down with those that come close to the gray area and have a discussion. Further, it isn't about distraction or control or sexism. It's about dignity of self and helping youth understand societal and professional expectations. They have plenty of opportunities to wear clothing inappropriate for a school outside of school. If changes need to be made, then the path that should be pursued is changing the process in response to an alleged violation. Ask the student, have a conversation about the dress. Help them identify ways that might violate their policy and encourage them to do better. Provide an appeals process where more people are involved. Excuse me. Making them leave school should only be done in particularly egregious cases or repeat violations. Alternately, consider a uniform, which has many benefits for schools. If the rules are going to be loosened as requested, I strongly suggest trials and a gentle rollout. Having casual Fridays and see how the students use or abuse the newly proposed rules would provide valuable information. Switching gears, regarding public comment, I understand the need and desire to have agenda items given priority and don't disagree with having the first public comment period devoted to agenda items. However, I don't believe it's necessary to require that all public commenters submit their forms before the start of the meeting. I understand the desire to limit the back and forth, but I think this can still be well served with a slightly modified version, which it appears many have already suggested, allowing comments for a particular section to be submitted up until the beginning of that section and then not allowing them until the second section. So you could still have a response in the second section, but then that person has to stay for the entire meeting, and I notice a lot of people tend to leave quickly. Further, this allows for immediate public feedback for discussions and votes. So for instance, if you had this in place today, I couldn't speak about the public policy or the comment policy unless I had prepared remarks in the beginning. Your discussion has brought new conversations and thoughts to light. So I think that it's important to have the second session allow people to bring their forms up until it begins. I'm further concerned about the suggestion that this meeting is only intended for agenda business. As elected officials and according to Michigan law, this meeting is also intended to provide a forum for voters to communicate all relevant items of interest and concern. Please tread lightly in discouraging an open forum. Although, I'd strongly suggest fixing the problems people are bringing to you rather than limiting or controlling their right to address you. Thank you.
The next Board of Education meeting will be held on January 14th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. in the Liberty School Boardroom. Closed session. Can I have a motion to enter closed session in the Board of Education at 8:15 p.m. with the intent to re-enter open session at 8:45 p.m. for the purpose of superintendent evaluation under Section 8A. Simple majority vote is sufficient to enter closed session. This will be a roll call vote. Trustee Austin?
Aye.
Board President Heineck is aye. Secretary McVeigh?
Aye.
Vice President Bonas?
Aye.
Trustee Steven?
Aye.
Trustee Valenti?
Aye.
All right, we'll go into closed session in 5 or 6 minutes. Thank you.
Which is the call, 5 or 6?